All right, beautiful soul. I am really excited to dig into today's topic. It's one of my favorite topics to talk about. And if you stumbled upon this podcast episode, it's because your angels and guides want you to know something. And they're wanting to communicate with you in many different ways. And so I am so excited to just share with you some of the many ways that the universe will communicate with us. Your angels and guides, ancient ancestors, they're trying to communicate messages to you. And usually it's trying to validate maybe an intuitive ping that you've gotten so that you have the courage to go after it, whether it's in business or in life. Often we'll receive some sort of an intuitive ping. And then our ego starts to get involved and say, well, who am I to build that? If I build it, will they come? All of those things. And so this is a really powerful way to start to, one, notice the signs that you're receiving from the universe, but two, to actually ask for signs from the universe. Because so often our angels and guides want to communicate with us. And so, what I actually guide people into in many of my different workshops and things of that nature is I love that whenever you set an intention, I always love to say, and so let's say you set the intention to say, I am so grateful to call in, my soul aligned clients to make 7 figures this year. That feels so much so in alignment. I'm so grateful that that happened, that I am manifested in the 7 figures and it feels so good in my body. Say it with gratitude, say it as if it's already happened, say it with intention, close your eyes, feel it in the cells of your body. And then when you're feeling that energy, I also love to ask my spirit team for signs that it's happening. So anything you may be wanting to manifest, I always like to add in signs like send me the color purple, send me the number 111, send me a ladybug, right? I love to do either a color, a number, an insect, or an animal to just say, hey, spirit guides, angels and guides of the highest vibration, send me these signs that I am on the right path. I want to know that I'm on the right path. So one, you can ask for signs, but two, start to notice signs in your day-to-day life experience because the universe is trying to communicate something to you. So some of the ways that the universe is communicating with you is through numerology. So if you start to notice a sequence of numbers that keep showing up, or it just feels significant, like let's say you look down at your phone and it's 111, right? Or there's a license plate as you're driving and it's 444 or 1010, right? Something along those lines. If it feels significant, if it feels important, what I always like to do when I'm noticing that I see a sequence of numbers or I'm seeing a repeat sequence of numbers, especially, but you don't have to see it repeated. If it feels important, just lean into it. And what I like to do, especially when I was first starting to kind of channel the energy of the universe and the messages that I'm looking to receive, is I will either one, Google spiritual meaning of 111. And then I will look at the first 5 summaries that show up on Google. And I will essentially just see, okay, which of these feel most relevant in my body? And then I'll click that link and then jump in and see what it has to say. Because many of the channel definitions will be different because they're channeled by different people. And so it's about you using your intuition to say which one feels most relevant. This one does. And let me tune into this and start to see what message may be coming through from my angels and guides. Another thing that I love to do is actually use ChatGPT or another AI to basically prompt it to give me the spiritual meaning of X, the number, things of that nature. And what I will do is I will essentially say, act as if you are the most sought after psychic, intuitive channel in the entire world. Give me the spiritual meaning of the number 440. Right? Or something along those lines. I really like to prompt it to say, you're a channel, you're a psychic, you're a medium, you're intuitively tapped in. What is the spiritual meaning of this number? And what I love about ChatGPT is it's going to actually give you a much longer response. And you can prompt it to say, not only what does it mean, but also what are some journaling prompts? What are some affirmations? What are some exercises to help me work with this number? So you can ask ChatGPT to take it even further when you're receiving the message, which is a lot of fun. And I find that they're so accurate whenever I do that. And then you can just go back to that same prompt that you did before, so you don't have to reprompt it every time. And next time that you see a number, you can just say, amazing. Now, what is the spiritual meaning of 111? And then you've already prompted it to be that channel, psychic, intuitive, all of those things, and then see what message comes through. So numerology is a really big one where your angels and guides are trying to speak to you. And this is where I think a lot of people start to get validation to build the thing they want to in their business, to maybe break up with someone that they're not in alignment with, or to move to another city. When we have these big life decisions that are ahead of us, they can feel really daunting. So much so that sometimes we just do the fight, flight, or freeze thing where we just don't go after it. And so your guides are trying to give you validation for what you received, even if it doesn't make sense on paper, but it feels right in your body. Your guides are trying to tell you something. And so numerology is a really big way that they love to speak to you. Also, the other one that I mentioned before is animals, insects. So if you start to recognize that, let's say there's a ladybug inside of your office. So it's just been happening to me so much recently. I keep finding ladybugs inside of my house or when I'm going to a new healer. And as I was walking in, there was a ladybug that flew right in front of me. And it was like, okay, my angels and guides are in the space. I'm about to have a big breakthrough. And also my dog, who was 14 and a half, who passed away, her name was Lady. And the sign that she always sends me are ladybugs. And so it's also a validation, not only from my angels and guides, but from, family members that have passed to say, I'm with you and I'm right by your side. I'm supporting you through whatever it is you're about to walk through, or just that reminder that you're loved. And so animals and insects are also telling us things energetically. And so again, you can use Google to say, what is the spiritual meaning of a ladybug? Do the same thing, first 5 summaries, see which one feels right. Or you could go back to that exact same prompt you did before for the numbers but substitute that for spiritual meaning of a butterfly or a ladybug. These are great ways to start to tune in, especially if you're new to unlocking the spiritual meanings behind things. Now, a fabulous thing that you can do is to actually learn how to channel and to open yourself up to receiving messages. Now, this is a more advanced technique, which is fun and so much fun. It's something that I teach my clients how to do. And it's a really powerful way of saying, not only are we going to the internet to find the sources of these things, where so many people that have channeled these messages before have put online for us to beautifully be able to collect and utilize and see what feels like it's in alignment with us, but also, another way to do that is to close your eyes, get into meditation, start to really cleanse and clear your energy, open up and protect your lines of communication with those that are of the highest vibration and of the highest good, and then ask the question, what is the spiritual meaning of the butterfly? Or what are you trying to teach me about the butterfly? And then I just close my eyes and I start writing whatever comes through or whatever feels right. And this is kind of like working out. So it's kind of like you go to the gym and maybe the first time you do it, nothing comes through, or the first time you do it, the exercise feels really wonky and like you're doing it wrong, but then you do it 2 or 3 more times, and then you feel a little more stable in the experience. And so what I always say when someone is learning how to channel is, for the sake of the exercise, just pretend like your imagination is accurate. Pretend like everything that you're receiving is truth and just let it roll, let it ride. Because so often our brain will get in the way of the responses and it'll say, like, oh, that's not true, or you're making stuff up. And it's like, instead, just say, for the sake of this exercise, for the sake of learning how to channel, I've grounded and protected my energy. And I'm going to pretend like every single thing that I receive, all the messages, the downloads that I'm getting, are accurate. And with my eyes closed, I just write it down. I jot it down. And then if something feels significant, I circle it. And then afterwards, I read what I wrote. And often I find I'm like, ooh, wow, that did not come from me. That feels very relevant and very cool and so accurate. And so that's what I love about channeling. And again, it's an exercise that you can start to lean into, try on, see what feels good. But for those that may have difficulty with channeling now, or they're just not sure if they want validation maybe in different ways, Google, ChatGPT are great ways. But then of course, try it, test and learn. If you have a desire to channel, you can channel. It's not something that you're just born with or you're born without. Like, we all have the ability to channel, and it's just like we all have the ability to do all of these different things that we came in this lifetime to do. And so we all have the ability to tap into our intuition. Again, it's just like working out. It's a muscle that you're just going to practice with. And especially if you have the desire to do it, you're meant to do it. And so I just want to validate someone who might be like, oh, I have to go outside of myself to find the answers. That's not true. Like, if you have a desire to channel or a desire to tap into your intuition or become a psychic or a medium or any of these things, you can absolutely do it. It's just about relearning and remembering how to do it. So this has been my own journey where for the longest time, we're all born with these gifts. And then oftentimes they're shut down by the people that are around us that don't understand them. Like, oh, she's just, her imagination is so big. Ha ha ha. Like, or what you're saying is not true. Like, no, you didn't see that. Like, that's false. And then we get this lack of validation. So we kind of turn it off. And then we just assume that we don't have the gift. And that was my assumption for a really long time. I always, for a very long time, I was outsourcing questions and outsourcing channels and or channeling and just outsourcing need for validation. So I kept going to psychics and asking for the validation. And then when I felt like I needed an immediate answer and they wouldn't respond to me, I felt like anxious, like, oh, I just want them to respond today, but it's the weekend. And so they might not respond. And then what I recognized was, oh, wait, I have the power within myself to learn how to do that. And so I actually turned it back on. And the more that I practice, the more that I play with it, the easier it becomes. And now it's kind of like second nature. Like I just get these intuitive pings all day long without even having to set the intention that I'm channeling. So I just want to validate that if this is something you're interested in, it's absolutely something that you can do to just play with it, start to lean in and play with the energetics of it, which is so much fun. So some of the other ways that the spiritual realm and our highest self are speaking to us is through our body. And that's many different ways. So sometimes we will have a felt sensation about something, like I receive body chills when something is like truth and something is in alignment or something is just absolute truth, like a deep sense of knowing. I experience body chills. Now, you may feel a felt sensation in a different way. It may feel like an overheating of the body, or the body gets really cold, or it may feel like a pain in the body or something along those lines. It's telling you something about that you need to know. And so specifically around like pain and disease, the body is trying to tell you something from the spiritual realm as well. So if you're experiencing pain somewhere in the body, or you're experiencing a disease in the body as well, a fabulous resource for how to start to channel what is it that my body is trying to teach me is the book Heal Your Body from A to Z by Louise Hay. That's a really great jumping off point, because basically what it is it's you're going to look up the physical ailment that you're experiencing. And from there, it's going to tell you the probable emotional cause for the physical sensation. So oftentimes, if we're starting to tune into the body, if we're experiencing pain or disease on the left side of the body, that means that's something about the feminine energy. There's something there about maybe your mother's lineage, or about feminine energetics, or about where are you not letting yourself be in flow or be supported, things of those nature. If you're experiencing something on the left side of the body, first of all, your body is telling you something about the feminine, right? If you're experiencing pain or disease on the right side of the body, that's the opposite. That's the masculine energy, right? And so the body is trying to tell you something about masculine energy, or a masculine energy you may or may not be leaning into. And so, or your father lineage, right? Like you're on your father's side. So it's something there. And when we think about masculine energy, there's something there around, structure or penetrative energy or assertiveness. If you think about that divine masculine energy, or sometimes we're in a unhealed expression, especially if it's pain or disease, typically there's some sort of an unhealed expression that's happening either in a feminine way or a masculine way. The left side of the body, feminine, right side of the body, masculine. And so the body is simply trying to tell you something. And so for instance, let's say, so I had plantar fasciitis when I was working in corporate, and both of my feet, so much so that I had a standing desk, and I, at some point, could not stand for more than 10, 15 seconds at a time without feeling just throbbing pain in the bottom of my feet, because my arches are really high. And then out of nowhere, I started to get plantar fasciitis in my feet. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't even stand. I went from like being able to like work out 5 a.m. every single day, like let's go energy, like just in like such masculine energy that my body was literally telling me to slow down, to be in more flow. I was trying to do way too much at one time, and my body was actually physically telling me to slow down, quit trying to rush moving forward, honor your body, create more time for breaks, let yourself rest instead of just pushing and grinding. Allow yourself to actually pause. And this was in a moment in time in my life where I was like in corporate, working 60 hours a week, taking Adderall, just like grinding it out. And I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 15. And then I got this intuitive ping in my 30s that was like, what shaman do you know that's on Adderall? And I was like, huh, literally none of them. That's really interesting. But then I started getting intuitive pings that I wasn't actually ADHD. To make a long story short, I actually ended up getting a brain scan at Brain Code Centers. Shout out to my friend Rachel, who's the owner of Brain Code Centers. I got this brain scan and it actually told me that I had the number one marker for misdiagnosis for ADHD. So this is how the body was actually speaking to me because I started to actually recognize the medication wasn't working for me. It was making me feel anxious. It was just not in alignment with me anymore. And then I kept getting these messages that I'm talking about from the universe that were saying, take this test online. Like I stumbled upon this podcast and it was with, I think is Daniel Amen. I don't remember his last name, but basically he's one of the major researchers in ADHD. And so I remember the universe speaking to me through social media, through podcasting. And I was like driving home from Austin and I set the intention, God, source, universe, whatever message I'm most meant to hear right now, let that be the next podcast that plays. And so whatever podcast it was that he showed up on, he was talking about the 7 different types of ADHD. And I was like, oh, I wonder what type of ADHD I am. So I end up taking his quiz that basically is going to tell you which sort of ADHD you are. And at the end of the quiz, it says you don't have ADHD based on all of the brain scans and results and data that we have. And so that was my first indication that I didn't actually have it. And then come to find out, I don't even know, this past year, I ended up doing a brain scan anyways. And I'd been off of the medication for a long time, but I ended up doing a brain scan anyways. And that was like something I didn't know that they were going to find, that they basically said, because your brain moves so quickly, it's actually misdiagnosed as ADHD. Like my brain moves really fast, which can sometimes cause to over rumination, sometimes cause to moving so quickly that I lose my keys or, things like that. But it's also such a gift. And that just means that my brain is moving really quickly. I don't have to prepare for things as much. I can just go off of the cusp, just allow myself to channel and just let myself, move through life, trusting my intuition without necessarily having to overthink it. So it's the both and, right? But this is what I mean by the universe is trying to share messages with you. So that was something that I was guided on, where it was like the podcast came on, which again, universe is going to talk to you through whatever channel you're paying attention to. So for me, that was a podcast. So I was given that information through the podcast, and then I kept getting many different messages from the universe that I was meant to release the medication that felt like it was in alignment with me, what felt like it was in alignment was releasing the medication. And I just kept getting signs, right? So another sign that I got specific to this example was I remember being in Sedona, having the most spiritual, high vibrational trip. And I was just like, oh, I'm on top of the world. Like the world is amazing. I feel so much peace. And then I landed back in Dallas and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to refill my prescription. And I called CVS and they're like, we're out of it. And I was like, okay. And then I called another one. We're out of it. And then I called another one. We've got 4. I've called another one. We've got 7. And I'm like, wow, nothing has me feel more 3D, more annoyed, more dropped into like, this is so freaking frustrating than this experience. So as a generator by human design, which is another way that your spirit is talking to you, is through your human design, through your astrology, is essentially when I'm deeply frustrated by something, it means it's not in alignment with me. So I actually really highly encourage you to look up your human design. If you haven't done so already, you basically just need where you were born, the time you were born, and the date that you were born. If you have all that information, it's going to tell you some really cool things about yourself. And I think a really great way that the universe is going to speak to you is through your quote unquote for self theme versus your not for self theme. And what that means is for me as a generator, when something is for me, it's going to feel deeply satisfying. Like I'm just going to feel so satisfied, which is how Sedona felt. Oh, just so yummy, so satisfied. And then when something's not for me, I'm going to feel deeply frustrated. And so for me, it was calling CVS and feeling like I was just wasting my time on earth trying to track down something that just wasn't even in alignment anymore. And so another way that the universe is going to speak to you is through your human design for self or not for self themes, which are really freaking cool. So I just love when we get repeated signs as well. So you might be watching TV and someone's like orange, and they just keep saying the word orange. And then you read a book and then the word orange pops out again. And then someone else is wearing orange. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, like why is orange showing up everywhere? So when I'm talking about like repeated signs, there's typically something there for us to uncover. So if I were to lean into what does orange mean specifically, as a Reiki master, what I would tune into is, well, the second chakra, the sacral, is represented by the color orange. Now, what is the sacral chakra? It is essentially our creative life force sexual energy, right? Like, how are we creating? How are we creating life? How are we creating and birthing things in our business? Are we allowing ourselves to be fully self expressed and lean into creative endeavors? Are we self actualizing? Are we allowing ourselves to follow the things that feel exciting and expansive? That is that second chakra, that orange energy. So if I'm seeing a lot of orange, to me, what that's indicating is there's probably something there that I'm blocking. Am I letting myself be creative? Am I feeling sexually repressed? Like, is there something in my life where I'm not really letting myself explore the way that I most desire to explore? Right. And the same could be said of, let's say, red. Red is the color of the root chakra. It is our first chakra. And so if I'm seeing a lot of red around me, or I'm just getting a repeat sign of red, or I'm reading red, seeing red, all of these things, that to me means that the root basically means like safety. How are we creating groundedness and safety within the body? So if I'm seeing a lot of red, to me, that probably means I need to get grounded. I need to lean into some ways of calming my nervous system. Maybe I've been doing a lot of things that feel stretchy and it's having me feel scared. Let's say I'm, upping my prices, or I just hired a new person, or I just made a big investment, or I'm going to build something new and my fears start coming up. Like, will they come? Like, if I build it, will they come? Things like that. And so for me, what my body is telling me, or what the signs are telling me, if I'm seeing a lot of red, is, ooh, I get to really ground down and root down and create more safety within my body to then create more safety in my mind. Because I always feel into when we can create safety in the body, it then allows for the mind to follow. So 10 out of 10 recommend leaning into ways to calm your nervous system. So the 7-figure shift that I'm going to drop down into the show notes, that is one way that you can calm your nervous system to go after the thing that you want. So I'm actually really excited to gift that to you into the space. So it's called the 7-figure shift. And essentially what it is it's an exercise to help you manifest anything that you desire, whether you want to manifest 7 figures, your soulmates, no matter what it is that you want to manifest. It's about, how can I normalize success in my body? How can I feel safe around my next level version of success? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And so this is so important. So I'm actually really grateful that I'm channeling this through. It feels like someone who's listening in really needs this exercise. So if that's you, drop down in the show notes and download that free exercise, because that has been a game changer in my life. Whenever I've said yes to things that feel like a full body yes, and then my ego gets involved and is like, whoa, what if you screw this up? This is the exercise I fall into. Anytime I've done a big quantum leap in life and business, I've done this exercise to make me feel safe going after it. It's so important. This is a way to just start to tell your body it's safe. It's normal to experience wealth. It's normal to experience XYZ, right? It's normal to experience a love that feels so in alignment with my soul. You see what I mean? So it's so important. This is why people that are born with money often create more money, because money was always there for them. It felt like a normal experience, right? And so for them, it's like, of course they're creating more wealth. It's normalized, like in their body. They're like, yes, wealth is always there. I can create more of it. There's always enough to go around. So they have these internal stories and they've normalized what success looks like in their body. Money is always there. So this is a way for you to normalize success in the body to create more of what you want. Super important. So these are just some of the ways that the universe is going to be speaking to you. I find this so often too, that with my clients, they'll send me screenshots of things that they stumble upon, quote unquote, online. So things like Instagram, where they just said something and then they'll get an Instagram post of someone saying, here's a coffee alternative. And then they're like, whoa, okay, I was just talking to you about how I needed to actually stop drinking coffee. Now, sometimes that's a targeted ad, but if it feels relevant, click on it. Right. But other times it could be someone that literally posted something and has high intentions that the people that are most meant to see that post will stumble upon it. That's what I intend with every single thing that I post. And so the beauty is, if you're meant to see that message, somehow it will end up on your feed. I always say God is like the ultimate algorithm. Like if you're meant to see it, your angels and guides are going to align you with that post. they want you to be able to see it. And so that's the power of leaning into this space and just recognizing when you're receiving validation for something that you already know or something you desire to know. So the other thing that I'll mention is what I kind of touched on earlier today is our ancient ancestors. So for instance, let's say if someone passed away and there was a sign that kept coming up after they passed away, like a red cardinal, or I told you before, my dog Lady who passed away, I see ladybugs whenever I'm tuning into her. Just taking notice that sometimes we'll see their name on repeat. Let's say we go to order something at a cafe, the waitress has the name of a parent that passed away or a loved one that passed away. That's your sign from that person in the spiritual realm that they're with you, they're connected with you, and they might have messages for you. So again, learning how to channel is so powerful because you could then allow yourself to not only channel from your angels and guides, but see, hey, mom, dad, hey, Derek, whoever it is that you're tuning into, what message do you have for me? Why did you show up here today? What do you want me to know? And just slowing down, getting quiet, getting rooted, and allowing for the answers to just flow in. And again, like I told you, if you're channeling, it's so important to say, for the sake of learning how to channel, let me just pretend like my imagination is accurate. And let's just see what comes through. And then through this process of automatic writing, you'll close your eyes. You'll begin to write down whatever messages are starting to come through. And if they don't come through, that's okay. Take the pressure off of needing to have an answer come through. Hold space for, whatever may come, transpire, messages or no messages, let it be okay. And just start to write down what you're receiving. Now, this could show up as you audibly hearing something. It could show up as you seeing something, like maybe you see a person that pops up, or you see let's say you have a memory that comes through of you in college when you failed a test. Okay, maybe there's a piece of information there. So you just start to write down everything that you're seeing, everything that you're experiencing. And then from there, you can start to see if there's significance that's coming through. So maybe you've been leaning into a lot of shame recently, or you felt like really guilty about certain things. And then as you close your eyes and you're asking for these messages to come through, these memories start flooding in around all the times where you shamed yourself. These are puzzle pieces. Your soul or your spirit team are telling you what you probably need to heal and clear. So things like that. So these are just ways to start to lean in. I just absolutely love that the body is telling the story of the soul, that the universe is consistently sending us signs. And this is the way that I've really been able to build and scale my business in so many ways. But I will say, like, when I needed validation around something that I was doing that was scary, the validation I received from the universe came through signs like this. And it's so important for us to actually not dismiss the signs, but to get really present with our day-to-day life, focus in on like just grounding our energy, being present in the day-to-day life so that we don't miss the signs. Because I guarantee your spirit team is sending you signs all the time, but you're missing them if you're consistently thinking about the future. How am I going to do this? What if that? Can I do this? Or if you're consistently thinking about the past, oh, I screwed that up. I can't believe I did that. I'm so embarrassed. Da, da, da. You're missing the here and now. This is where all the magic is the here and now. And your spirit team are sending you signs all the time. And if you want more clarity around the signs, follow what I shared before or ask for the signs, like I mentioned before. So maybe there's a certain color, a number, a word, a name. There are no rules. I was just giving you some examples of how you can start to ask for these signs. And then when you see the color purple and then you see it again, nod, smile, thank your spirit team for sending you that sign. Like, oh, I know that it's coming. I'm so grateful it's already here. I'm so grateful to witness this energy within my space. It has me recognize the quantum leap is already happening. I'm already in the quantum leap. I'm already there. It's already my truth. And there's just so much power in starting to not only witness them, but acknowledge them and believe in the signs. So powerful. So I hope that you received something so beautiful. If you landed on this podcast episode, you were meant to hear this. Your angels and guides want you to know this. So play with this energy. Maybe bookmark this episode and come back to it. Listen to it often or listen to it multiple times to, again, learn how to channel or learn how I prompt ChatGPT to start to tell me spiritual meanings about things or just some of the ways that our soul is speaking to us. So these are incredible ways to start to tune in to receive messages from our spirit team. So I am so grateful that you hopefully receive some sort of golden nugget today that your spirit team is trying to communicate to you. So I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for tuning into this incredible episode. I love you so much. If you loved this episode, if you received something beautiful from it, please give us that 5-star review. It helps so many people find the episode, and share it with a friend. If you've got a friend that's like, oh, I just don't know what to do, I'm scared, I'm nervous, share this episode with them. How cool would that be if you shared this episode with them and the very next day they got a sign from an ancestor that had passed away, and they're like, if you hadn't sent me that, I might have dismissed this sign that I received and not realized that my mother was trying to speak to me, or that my aunt was coming through, or whatever that looks like. Like, this is such powerful work. And if you can aid someone in uncovering the messages from the universe, I mean, it is one of the most soul nourishing things that we can do. So please share this with a loved one or someone that you feel like could really benefit from this lesson or these messages that came through. This is how we grow in community, is by sharing knowledge and wisdom and allowing us to just remember what our soul really truly already knows. We just need the validation outside of us sometimes to remember what was already there. So I'm sending you so much light and love. I can't wait to share with you what's coming up next week. It's going to be so much fun. And in the meantime, I'm sending you so much love. Mwah. Talk soon.